If you are someone who takes care of human beings in a healthcare environment, I need you to listen the hell up. I just watched another video of a Black woman being dismissed in active labor and having a baby 8 minutes later. It is disgusting to watch, but finally, people are paying attention. This is an article that was written 2.5 years ago. I talked about how if you are a nurse who says shit like, I'm colorblind, I don't see color, I treat all my patients equally, that you are part of the problem. You are actively contributing to harm because your passive silence is active violence. So you might not be the nurse that does the side eye to a laboring Black woman, but you won't be the person to speak up when something is wrong. You'll be the nurse just following doctor's orders, just pushing the patient to the car. But if you are the kind of nurse who cannot recognize that a patient's skin color, one of the most obvious things about them, puts them at a 3 times greater risk of death, what are we doing? I'm going to explain to you why equality should never be a goal in healthcare. Our goal should be equity. I'm going to use a photo that's often used to explain this, but I'm going to explain why it doesn't work on our scenario and give you a better example. So this is what equity means, okay? We're not giving everyone the exact same thing because giving everyone the exact same thing will still end with people having bad outcomes. We have to recognize the specific needs of our patient and give them exactly what they need to be successful or to live or to not be traumatized when they come into a hospital. Here's why this doesn't work when we're talking about Black women. This puts the problem or the onus within the body of that person.
You know what's interesting to me? That in the wave of what's happening to Black women in hospital settings at the hands of white nurses, primarily white female nurses, there is a wave of white female nurses making posts in tears as if they didn't know this was happening, as if they're not the perpetrators of what happens to us in hospitals. Literally, if you look up the statistics, if you look at what the dissatisfaction rates of Black women and what made our births and our hospital experiences testy or stressful, it was white nurses and how they treated us. Who's there? The doctors are not there primarily. It's nurses, and it's mostly white female nurses who are mistreating and dismissing Black women. When I had my hospital birth that I wrote about, I was arguing with white nurses. There was not nary a Black nurse in that room. And anytime I attended a birth, when there was a Black nurse, that's when I could take a breath, when I could calm down as a doula and know that my client was going to be taken care of, because the care was different. And the only reason that my clients got the respect they got from the white nurses is because I was there. You know what I'm saying? I have walked in on white nurses trying to deliver Black women's babies with no medical professional. With no doctor present. I have had white nurses argue with me about why I was present in the room. It's white nurses, okay? And you're doing the very thing that we're saying you're doing in hospital settings when you get on these apps and cry over our tears about what's happening to us at your hands. You're doing the same thing that you do in the hospital. It's basically telling us that, no, we're getting it wrong. No, nurses are better than this. Our field is it's not, though. We're not experiencing these disparities because y'all doing better. Like, stop trying to gaslight us and stop crying over our tears. And for all the Black people watching, do not let them fool you. Who we talking about right now is white nurses. It's not a system. The system ain't got hands and feet. The hands and feet of the system is the people in it. And it's white nurses. The system ain't doing nothing to us. How it's set up, yeah, sure, but who's perpetuating it? It's white female nurses. So if y'all really want to do something, do your job. Don't get on this app and act like you've never seen it before. You do your job so well. You have no colleagues who act like this. Stop it. And stop talking about a system as if it exists outside of the people who work in it. And that's you right now. We talking to you. Right now, Black women are on the brink, on the cusp of just squaring up with white women. It's something that should have happened a long time ago. So go on, get off the app. Keep that same energy. That energy that you had in the hospital when she said she was in pain and you was big and bad and you had something real nasty to say to her. Y'all Google it. White women say crazy shit to Black women while they're in labor all the time. Tell them to stop crying. It don't hurt that bad. Stop screaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, I read this stuff all the time. So you can't fool me. You can fool somebody else. You can't fool me. I'm a doula. I'm a journalist. I do this. So y'all don't be fooled. They ain't sorry and they're not shocked. They're just trying to keep you from looking at them.
Now that I have you all here, after subjecting myself to public scrutiny and I have your attention, I want to talk to you about the Black woman that was robbed of her dignity, respect, and compassion by a racist, soon-to-be former nurse. And if you look like me in any capacity, it is your obligation to know and understand what systemic racism is, racial disparities that do exist, such as Black women dying at 3 times the rate of white women and including their babies. It's not enough to just be not racist. You need to be anti-racist. You need to be outspoken. You have the obligation to be outspoken and anti-racist because it is not a Black person's job to explain their everyday lived experiences to you in which you will continually reject and deny. It is no longer you didn't know. It is no longer willful ignorance. It is racism. And I don't care if you like it or not. You cannot just treat your patients the same. That is racism. Treating your patients the same means Black people die. They need to not only be cared for, but they need to leave feeling like they were respected and safe. And that's not happening. And people need to keep recording these incidents and posting them online. If that Black mother was robbed of her dignity and respect and compassion, that racist nurse deserves none of it. And when in doubt, shut your mouth and listen to Black women.
Do presentations for nurses and talk about the importance of speaking up when it might feel scary to protect our patients from birth trauma, harm, or death. And in this presentation, I made this graphic, which shows 2 equally heighted women in 2 different environments in the same place. This woman's ancestors were enslaved women who were experimented on by a monster named James Marion Sims and called it gynecology, given procedures without anesthesia because they thought Black women could not feel pain. Even in my nursing books, in the culture section, it talked about how Black women have a higher pain tolerance. In order to improve outcomes for this patient, we have to either repair the ground underneath her or move her to a safer location. We have to change her environment. And when it comes to birth, there's a lot of well-meaning advocates who say, this is why you should have a home birth. No, that should never have to be the answer. We have to make birthing in a hospital while Black safer. And it starts by treating your Black patients differently. Stop being personally offended if they don't inherently trust you because you're wearing a badge and scrubs, because they've likely experienced mistreatment from someone who looks an awful lot like you. It's why my 9-year-old doesn't fuck with bees. He got stung by a bee, and even though there are going to be millions of bees who don't sting him, he will never trust a bee. And I don't blame him, because every bee has the opportunity to hurt him. We know that Black women are less likely to be listened to, so knowing that, how would you approach a patient who you knew was at a higher risk of not being listened to? Would you pull up a stool and hang on every word she says? Would you make a promise to listen to her? Would you echo her wants and desires louder to the other people on the care team? Would you act immediately if she says something is wrong? Or would you brush it off and say you're fine? But most importantly, are you willing to speak up against your coworkers, against people you may consider to be your friends when something is not right? If even half of the healthcare workers in this country made a pact to never allow this type of behavior to exist in our orbit, we could make things better. But it counts on you holding up your end of the deal, to treat your Black patients differently, to never be silent in the face of injustice, and to always be on the lookout for ways that you can help your patients feel.
When black people talk, a lot of people say black people are not saying the right thing. When black people try to make comments, when black people trying to make videos, sharing their experience of what they literally go through in the hands of these white nurses and doctors, a lot of people said a lot of them are dementia. Black people are not okay. Black people just want to say something. But right now, these are white women coming out to air out their opinion in their workspaces, what they have literally observed with their eyes, not only their eyes, what statistics has also showed. And it is that bad that a place that is supposed to be safe, a place that is supposed to be where every single person we have that mindset of, oh, I am safe here, is now becoming a place of terror for black people. And first, I want to say a very big thank you to every single white person that has taken out their time to identify this type of problem, coming out to air their opinion. This video is for educational purposes only, and credit to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in this episode. I want to say thank you to every single one of you, liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks. Also join my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. With that being said, let's roll out the other clips that we have, and I'll be back with commentaries. Let's go watch, guys.
I'm well aware that what I'm about to say could get me in a lot of trouble, but I think it's important enough to say. I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and I treat my black patients differently. I've seen nurses, especially labor and delivery nurses, online saying things like, I'm colorblind, I don't treat my patients any differently, meaning that they don't treat their black patients worse than they treat their white patients. And here's why it's not enough to be a colorblind nurse in 2023. Because I know that in my specialty, labor and delivery, black women are more likely than any other race to be harmed in pregnancy, childbirth, and beyond. The US is the worst place to have a baby if you're black in the developed world. Why is this not happening anywhere else? Systemic racism. If you don't believe me, just Google James Marion Sims. So not only are black women not believed about their pain, not believed about their symptoms, but also they may put off getting something checked out because they don't trust medical providers for good reason. So here's how I treat my black patients differently. Number one, I don't expect them to inherently trust me because I'm wearing scrubs and a badge, and I don't get offended if they don't. Many black women are coming in to have a baby already having experiences of not being listened to. And until I'm able to prove to them that I'm someone that can be trusted, they shouldn't trust me. More than my white patients, I emphasize the fact that I will always believe them. Yes, my white patients know also that I will believe them, but I really drive it home that I promise you that I'm going to believe everything they say. I include every single person in the room who is supporting this patient in a conversation about preeclampsia, even if they don't have it. Because preeclampsia is one of the leading causes of maternal mortality in the United States. And preeclampsia can happen even after you've had your baby. I tell them about the symptoms, and I also tell the support people that if you hear her saying any of these things, make sure that she gets seen. And if when she gets seen, you don't feel like she's being listened to, go somewhere else. I let them know that I'm here to be their birth bouncer, and that I'm not going to let anyone do anything to them, only for them and their baby with their permission. I can neither confirm nor deny whether I have slapped a provider's hand away when the patient said no. I don't know anything about that. I have no hard data to back this up, but I have a hypothesis that black women are not being repositioned in labor as much as white women. So my patients know, and I will say this, that I'm going to turn you like a rotisserie chicken because movement is gold in labor, especially after you have an epidural. If when we have a baby, I don't like the amount of bleeding that I'm seeing, I am early talking to that provider about, hey, what do you think about maybe giving a little bit of Cytotec? What do you think about putting in a Jada? Because postpartum hemorrhage is the leading cause of maternal death. I will always use whatever privilege I have to make sure that my patients are heard. That's why it's so important to treat your black patients differently.
I cannot believe what I'm reading, and I refuse to let this one go under the rug. So this is a nurse in Virginia. She's 26 years old. Her name is Erin Stratman. Now, she was just charged with malicious wounding and felony child abuse. She was intentionally breaking the bones of black newborns in the NICU. Now, these babies were already fragile. They're fighting for their lives in intensive care, and the mothers trusted staff to take care of their newborn children. And she betrayed that trust in the most horrific way imaginable. So back in November, doctors discovered that 3 newborns had just unexplainable fractures. And this is not even her first time doing this, because back in 2023, 4 babies in the same NICU had unexplained fractures as well. So that's 7 Black babies with unexplained broken bones in the same NICU. And one baby in particular, this is Noah. Noah was born premature. So then the parents noticed that not only was his leg discolored, but then he just stopped moving his leg altogether. And when Noah got an x-ray, they showed that he had a fracture. And can you imagine, the parents were so afraid to hold their own baby because they didn't want to be accused of child abuse. And one mother even lost her baby. And I just have so many questions. Why wasn't this caught sooner? Did you purposely get a job at a NICU? And how did this go on for over a year? And why aren't you getting charged with a hate crime? You targeted 7 Black babies, some of the most vulnerable lives in our community. And to make it clear, she was denied bond, but that's not enough. The family needs answers. The families deserve justice, and we not finna just...
Story time about the time that me and my son both almost died because my labor and delivery nurse was a racist. So actually, let me back up to the day before I had my son. I was having really bad back pains, and this is my first child. I didn't know what anything was supposed to feel like, so I went to the hospital to see if that was normal and just to make sure everything was going okay with the baby. They told me that I was having back contractions and that I was forced and meters dilated, but that they were going to send me home because more than likely it would be a long time before I delivered, and I could essentially just wait until I progressed, but they told me to come back if anything changed. So I went home, and pretty much that whole rest of the day and night, nothing happened. And the next morning, I was just in a lot of pain, still having back contractions, but nothing major had changed. So I decided I was going to spend the whole day essentially walking, trying to make myself go into labor naturally. And again, nothing happened other than my pain in my back intensified. And then I had gotten ready for bed. I think at this point it was around 11 o'clock, and I got up to use the restroom and my water broke. So me and my husband got everything ready. We rushed to the hospital and went inside. And when we went in, I think there was a nurse that I was dealing with, and I know for sure there was one other. I think there may have been 2, but it wasn't very busy. I only saw like a couple of people there. And then I am certain that I was the only person there because the other nurse, the one that wasn't admitting me, she made a comment about how it was weirdly quiet and I was the only person there to deliver. And then a little bit after I came in, one other woman came in. And I say that only because, just so you know, it's not like they were understaffed or that they just didn't have the capacity to see me. It was very intentional. Anyway, so the nurse that was admitting me asked me when my due date was. I told her that ironically it was that day, and she rolled her eyes at me and told me that she tells first-time moms all the time that it's very unlikely that you are delivering on your due date and that we should expect to go beyond that if this is our first child, and so that she thinks it's very unlikely that my water broke. I told her that I'm pretty sure I would know the difference, and reluctantly she agreed to test me. Then she told me that it was obviously in fact amniotic fluid, and then she admitted me. And when you're admitted to the hospital, they put monitors on your stomach to monitor the baby's heart rate as well as your contractions. But she was acting like she just didn't want to touch me, like I had leprosy or something, and so she was very lightly setting it on me, and she didn't tighten it to the point where it wasn't even reading anything. And so there's just straight lines on the monitor, and I was concerned because I didn't realize that she had put it on wrong. I just thought that she couldn't get a heart on the baby. And so I inquired about it, and she told me no, that it was going to be a long time until I was actually laboring so that she would come back and fix it. And then at this point, I think I had called my mom and my sister, and my mom and my sister came. They lived much closer to the hospital than I did, and they got there relatively quickly, and so we were all kind of hanging out in the room just waiting. I was still having back contractions, but nothing major was happening. I told them that she said it was going to be a while, so my mom and my sister went home, and me and my husband stayed. And I think at this point, it was maybe like 12:45-ish, and I had to get up and use the restroom again. And so I asked the nurse on the little speaker thing where you can communicate with them, I asked if it was okay if I used the restroom and if it would matter with the monitor. She told me it wasn't hooked up properly anyway, so that it didn't matter, that I could use the restroom. And when I went to the restroom, I noticed that I was bleeding pretty heavily, so again over the speaker I asked her if she could come check because there was a lot of blood and I was concerned. And she just said, "You're actively in labor, of course there's going to be bleeding." So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if that was normal or not, so I just got back in bed and I waited. But I was in a lot of pain at this point, and I told her that that I was experiencing a lot of pain. I did say I didn't want an epidural and that I was going to try to have the baby naturally. And she asked me what my pain level was. And mind you, she has not been back in the room once at this point. This is all communicating over the little speaker thing. So she said, I told her that my pain level was at a 5. She told me if it was really at a 5, that I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with her, a full conversation with her, and that she was going to put my chart at a 2. Anyway, the rest of the night, essentially nothing happened except for me being in a lot of pain and then her just not coming into the room. She didn't come back in from the time that she put the monitors on to the time that I delivered. She did not come back in once. And at the point that somebody else came back in, it was 7:40 in the morning, and it was a new nurse, and she was coming to erase the other nurse's name and tell me that she was taking over. And at that point, that's when she noticed that the monitor was not on me correctly, and she put it on, or she attempted to put it on and tighten it, and so she pulled back my blanket that I had over me, and then that's when she realized that I was in a pool of blood, and she kind of panicked, and then she told me to get on all fours and so she could check me, and then she called a bunch of nurses in and my doctor. And then at that point I started getting really lightheaded and things were like just dizzy for me. Everything was fuzzy for me. And then she told me that my placenta had ruptured and that they couldn't get a heartbeat on the baby, and that I was going to have to go into have an emergency C-section. And they rushed me in the elevator to the OR room. And then that's the last thing I remember, because I believe I lost 4 pints of blood and I passed out from the blood loss. And then the next time I woke up, it was hours later, and I woke up because someone on the administrative level of the hospital was in the room with my mom, and I woke up to this woman talking to my mom, telling her she didn't know if me or my son was going to make it, and that it was very touch and go, and that they wouldn't know anything for the next 24 hours, and then I passed out again. And then the second time that I woke up, that time my brother was in the room with me, and as well as my mom, and they were just waiting, and I asked where my son was, and they told me that he was in the NICU and they were trying to get an IV in him. They needed to administer an IV, and that I wasn't able to see him because they were concerned because of my blood loss that I was going to go into shock, and that they were still treating him, and then I passed out again. The only other thing that I really remember about that day is a bunch of people going in and out of my room to check on me, and then a bunch of people going in and out of the NICU to check on my son. And the nurse that had come in the morning, she did bring me pictures, because it was a full 24 hours before I was able to actually meet and hold my son. So she would go take pictures of him for me. But because the initial nurse, there was such a long period of time between me being admitted and her, the new nurse coming in to check on me, they didn't know at what point my placenta had ruptured and how long my son had been without oxygen, so they were worried about brain damage, and they had to do a bunch of tests, and he was also not in a stable condition because he himself had lost a lot of blood. And then again, they were worried about me going into shock because of the amount of blood that I lost. And then by the grace of God, the next day, me and my son were both stable, and he was able to come into my room with me. And it seems like every single person who worked at the hospital on the higher level, obviously that's an exaggeration, but a ton of people came into my room essentially apologizing that there was such a lapse in care, and they were saying that it wasn't characteristic, that wasn't their policy, and that basically that they would be addressing the issue. And it realistically just seemed like they were trying to avoid being sued, is what it came down to. But I bring all of this up because I saw that video of that woman who was screaming out in pain and minutes away from delivering her baby being ignored, and it's just another example of why the maternal mortality rate for Black women is so high comparatively to other races, and it just really comes down to racism, and there's really no explanation for it.
All right, I would like for all of you all to not crowd me and to have one person represent. I would like the police officer or this lady. You guys can go, because this is too many people.
And that's fine.
Okay, so can you do that now, just so we have some order here? So could you go, and then I can talk to these two? Thank you so much for bringing the paper. Okay, so can I just talk to these two? Thank you. I appreciate it. And then we can figure out everything. I really appreciate it. Maybe let me just talk to you two. So at the end of the day, they weren't giving me care I needed upstairs. My brother's concerned for my health. Okay? So they don't want to give me the care they need. That's fine. They want to try to keep me up there. They can't. I have rights. Right. He told me to go find somebody to talk to and to ask questions. My brother. So I was looking around on my floor. There's nobody at the charge desk. at the front. I recorded it as I'm coming down. And so we came down, and when I saw the first nurse station off the elevator, I asked her, and I said, my brother would like to talk to someone about why they're not letting me leave. Okay? Instead of her dealing with that, all they wanted to do is what you saw here. Do this, go here. Nobody want to talk to my family that's concerned about us. So then I walked this way. He said, just go find a security guard. Then we saw this white guy here. He wasn't very helpful, so I saw him. He started talking to my brother, and then they started all going in. Yes, I'll sign. I've been asking for this. I've been asking for discharge paperwork. Okay, they said they were gonna give that to me at 7. 7 has come and gone. They didn't want to let me see an anesthesiologist because I couldn't walk properly. And I said, I want to transfer care. If you're not going to let me see an anesthesiologist because of the epidurals, complications, I'll go somewhere else. They were saying they're not going to give me care. So I had to do what I have to do. Okay, well, let me go to another hospital. So at the end of the day, if they're trying to force me to stay, they're still not giving me what I need. Let me just go and get out of here, get my ride, and go wherever I need to go.
Well, let's go upstairs and get your stuff, because I believe
I
your
don't-
belongings are still upstairs.
Yeah, I don't, at this point, I don't even need my stuff.
Well, you need a car seat to take the baby.
Well, at this point, I'll wait outside for my my friends to come with me. I don't feel comfortable being by myself, especially
Well, can we take
considering.
you back upstairs and pack up your belongings?
No,
with
my
you?
stuff is packed. My stuff is packed, but I'm not going back up there on that floor.
Well,
I'll wait up. I have a right. I signed myself out.
well,
Let me
where
take a
is your-
picture.
Where is your ride?
Hold on.
Now, these are nurses that were literally working or are still working in the field, coming out to air out their opinion of what they have literally personally observed towards black women when it comes to this hospitality of a thing, how black women are treated, how black women are assumed to be treated differently. First of all, I want to say I really admire the courage that these nurses have, because I can tell you for a fact that we have a lot of white folks that have literally been saying this and they don't want to even say anything. They prefer to just keep quiet. They prefer to act as if nothing is literally happening. In fact, if you even want to say anything, they will literally tell you that black people are being racist towards them or black people complain too much. But in recent time, we have seen a lot of lives being lost as well, especially when we have black women and having some of these white folks literally handling them. And even in statistics and analysis, we can literally see that. And of which one of the questions you keep asking yourself is, how did we literally get here? These people are obsessed to the point that they don't care for whatsoever that is actually happening to a black person. And remember the video that literally went viral, that was last year or early this year? That was early this year, where this woman was actively in labor, and you have this redhead nurse sitting down looking at her, acting as if nothing is literally happening, claiming that she is literally doing the paperwork, that at the end of the day the paperwork is not helping anybody. Do you get? So until people started talking, and guess what, instead of thinking that this lady was literally fired, this lady was not fired. And what this lady literally said is, if a lot of black people are not literally okay with coming to predominantly white spaces to come give birth, why not they locate a black hospital? It's as bad as that. And even researchers also have it that a lot of black women lost their children due to labor, east, west, north, and south, or due to one or two mistakes more than the white folks. Now I started seeing reasons why these people can literally call and said, oh, we need to make white babies, because I've done that video before where a white woman was literally calling on her fellow white people saying they need to make white babies so that the black babies outcome will literally not outrage them. So it's just a whole lot to deal with when it comes to this medical field of a thing. And one of the places I think a lot of people should be safe and secure should be places like the hospital. So if we have places like the hospital that is supposed to be safe and secure, not being secured, not being safe for black people, then something is wrong somewhere. That's just the honest truth. Something is wrong somewhere. You have this gynecologist doctor. See, a lot of women, if you want black women to come here and share out their experience of what they have literally experienced, not only black women, why am I even specifying black women, black people in general, to come out and tell you their experience with some of these white folks, doctor, nurses, you're going to be hearing a lot of weird things that at the end of the day, you are literally going to shed tears. Black people go through a lot in the medical field, honestly, and at the end of the day, they will make it look like black people are literally the problem. Black people complain too much, but this is them folks calling out each other. And that is why I can never stop appreciating some of these white women that understand what racism has really done, that understand the depths of the damages that they have literally contributed in the country, and calling out who they really are. Because a lot will just see it, throw blind eyes, and act as if nothing literally happened. And at the end of the day, to make it look like we are always the problem. But let me know what you think in the comment sections, and credits to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And I wanted to share your experience with me as well in the comment section. Have you ever find yourself that a white nurse is literally attending to you? Have you gone to a predominantly white hospital before? What has literally been your experience? Let me know, because one thing I know for disclaimers is, in as much as we have bad experience, we also have good experience. So do well to share us your good and bad experience so that we can also learn from the comment section. You guys already know that the comment section is one place where we literally learn. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And yes, with no further ado, like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye, and I'll see you guys in my next one. And guys, I love you guys, and I'll keep you guys updated. Credits to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode once again. Bye for now. I love you guys. Mwah.